Well, joining us today is Stephen Walker, a senior member of the Elevate team in the Asia Pacific and a teaching fellow on the College of Law Masters in Legal Business Suite. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, George.
Today I'm looking forward to hearing your views, and as are all of our Facebook listeners, on the role of legal operations in optimizing the performance of law departments in corporations. How do you see that?
Yes, so increasingly legal department operations is playing a vital role to optimize the performance of legal departments. In a sense, operations for legal departments is really just an application of operations discipline, the operations discipline that's emerged in other fields and been well established for many years, including in law firms. The application of the operations discipline to the legal department is what's new, and it brings together a multidisciplinary set of skills and techniques and experiences under one umbrella to provide the sort of the structural underpinnings of the modern legal department. Yes, it's a word that you hear a lot, but it's certainly no fad. It is a way for legal departments to have a set of experts who don't just work in the business, but who are working on the business, and I think that distinction's important.
And on that point, Stephen, of multidisciplinary skills, which is skills in addition to legal skills,
yes,
it's now involving multidisciplinary professionals
yes,
in the operation. Could you say a bit about the type of professionals who are emerging?
Sure, and there is no blueprint for a legal operations professional. They come from many different disciplines. They may be lawyers or they may not be lawyers. They may be from the operations discipline itself. They may be financial analysts, business analysts, lean experts, technologists, legal project managers. These are the kinds of skills that are relevant for the domain of legal operations, and we see terrific legal operations managers coming from a variety of disciplines, but not least, of course, lawyers who understand the domain and who acquire some of these new skills in the course of their careers and wish to apply them for legal operations.
And in a few points, what is accounting for this, what I see as a boom in legal operations?
Yeah, it is a boom. I mean, you're right. If we look at, there's a number of studies, but if we look at recent studies in the US, for example, around 50% of companies surveyed have a legal operations, between 1 and 3 members of legal operations on staff. Now, that of itself may not be a huge number, but it's up sort of 15 to 20% depending on which studies you look at from previous years. So it's growing fast. And I think the reason is it's a logical response to what's often termed variously the more for less problem, the better, faster, cheaper problem. It is a logical response to the challenges that legal departments have today. Cost constraints, technology enablement, demonstration of their value to the business, smooth operations, efficient processes, eliminating waste, optimizing inputs. Of course, the inputs of a legal department are people and technology, time, process, and data. And the legal department ops professionals, that's their domain. Their job is to optimize, find the best blend possible of all those inputs and bring them to bear for the benefit of the legal department.
So what I'm hearing is that the profession of legal operations, this multidisciplinary, multi-skilled profession,
yes,
is now being brought to legal services in corporate law departments, and from other parts of the corporation,
yes,
which have been subject to these disciplines and benefiting from these disciplines, yes, for years, if not decades.
For many years. And you're right. And also I'd go a little bit further and say they play a vital role in helping the legal department run like a business. And that is to say, on the basis of data-driven decision-making and business intelligence. So we're moving into a world where the general counsel, the senior legal leaders of the future, the senior legal department leaders of the future, lawyers or otherwise, will not just operate on the basis of experience and gut feel and intuition. They will operate on the basis of data.
What are the implications of all this for the law firms that supply services to law departments?
Well, look, I think they're significant, and I think they're starting to resonate with the growth of legal department operations. First and foremost, I think buying behaviors and experiences will change, and expectations of law firms will change. I talk about the professionalization of procurement, becoming a more sophisticated customer. So legal departments will understand metrics. They will understand the balanced scorecard for law firms. They will understand value-based pricing, and they will have people who can bring to bear in conversations with law firms an understanding of lean, pricing, and data analysis. And so I think law firms need to react to that and understand that the domain has shifted. It's no longer a market in which to some extent the firms had all the data and all the understanding and all the expertise, and the buyers didn't. That's the first. The second is I think law firms will need to pivot and realign service delivery to match how the clients wish to consume those services, and that of itself will be different. And so we will see changes in service delivery models to make sure that the firm is packaging and producing legal work product in the way that the clients wish to consume it.
Stephen, this suggests to me that the subjects that you are leading and the graduate certificate in legal operations that you're leading for the College of Law is as applicable to law departments as it is to law firms.
Absolutely.
Be right about that?
Well, I think the fundamental discipline of legal operations has application to, of course, legal departments, but also to law firms and also to legal service providers of other stripes, technology companies and others, because it's bringing data-driven discipline, technology enablement, lean process, project management. It's bringing foundational business skills to the legal sector. And those skills will be transferable and useful in law firms, in technology companies, and in a range of other suppliers in that legal ecosystem.
Could we venture to say barristers' chambers and the courts should be included in that?
Look, I think so. I think, perhaps to some extent the barrister profession will be a little bit slower to change in many ways because it's predicated on very much a one-to-one bespoke consulting service. So some of these concepts will be slower to take hold there, but they will definitely be highly relevant for law firms selling services to corporate legal departments and public sector legal departments at scale and at volume.
So Stephen, thinking of a typical law department, can you help us understand the functions of that department and where legal operations comes in?
Yeah, well, there are a number of different models, competency models as they're called, for looking at the key functions and capabilities of legal department operations. The Corporate Legal Operations Consortium has one, the Association of Corporate Counsel has one. In common, they share probably a handful of key capabilities. Financial management, helping the legal department manage its finances and its spend well. Second, technology management. Providing and operating the foundational technology platforms on which the legal department operates. Strategic planning, setting the strategy and ensuring the strategy is aligned with the organization's objectives, and then executing and checking the execution of the strategy. Vendor management, which is becoming increasingly important for legal departments who are buying services not just from one or two or a handful of law firms, but from new law organizations, legal technology companies, LPO or the new style of legal services outsourcing companies. So there's a range of vendors out there. So vendor management is key. So those are predicated always on a grounding of data analytics, capturing business intelligence and communicating the story of the legal department in metrics and data-driven terms, which is so vital.
So this, to me, in my limited experience of law departments in Australia, is a brave new world. If I think back even 10 years ago, language like this, skills like this, the application of data to decision-making, triaging of work, it's all new world. So talk to us about the evolution of legal operations, where it's come from, where do you think it's heading?
Look, I suppose in a sense, many of these capabilities were already being performed by legal departments in some way, shape or form. What we've seen over the last 10 years, particularly post the global financial crisis, which really was a catalyst for legal departments to look at how they were running, where they can find efficiencies, how they optimize, how they reduce spend. So that provided a match to the growth of what has been quite a movement globally, and we're seeing the rise of legal operations all over the world. To some extent, it originated in the West Coast with some of those very large West Coast technology companies, but also the West Coast of the US, and the East Coast with the big banks and so forth. They're very well resourced with highly skilled operations professionals, but all departments are catching on to the value that they can create in working hand in glove with the lawyers to provide an overall rounded legal case.
So to be clear, this is not just for the mega corporates, it's also for the T3 person, a lawyer department in a mid-sized corporate.
Correct, and I would actually argue, and I often do, that it's even more important when your resources are slightly, you're perhaps not a top 100 company. You may have 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 lawyers. Then it becomes even more critical that you know where you're using your resources, where they're spending their time, and where you're, what the outcomes that are being generated by the application.
And my final question is about collaboration between outside counsel law firms and law departments in this area, and what you're observing there.
Yeah, well, I definitely see a global trend in which law firms are being asked to collaborate in a multi-vendor environment. For example, it might be working on a big M&A or a big piece of litigation that they're supporting, in a supporting role as part of that piece of work. There are e-discovery providers or outsourced service providers or technology providers. So I think law firms are being asked to collaborate in a way that was perhaps not quite the same some years ago. So I think there's that. But I think that I think the challenge for law firms is to pivot and to make sure that services are being packaged in a way that the clients want, and puts the client at the center of everything that the firm does, because I think that's key. And legal operations in the future will demand that. They will demand the pricing models, the service delivery models, the value to be demonstrated by the law firms. And so I think that's a good thing. I think some law firms are doing a terrific job of meeting that, and I think there's opportunity for for improvement across the whole legal ecosystem in terms of putting the client first and delivering value.
Thank you very much, Stephen. This interview is in large measure around what the College of Law is doing. We're taking our first group into the suite of programs for enrollment from August of this year. We have a graduate certificate, graduate diploma, and master's degree, and we have our first specialized graduate certificate in legal operations, which Stephen is teaching 2 subjects. Thank you, Stephen.